Alam tara ila alladhina kharaju min diyarihim وهم ألوف حذر الموت فقال لهم الله موتوا ثم أحياهم إن الله لذو فضل على الناس ولكن أكثر الناس لا يشكرون. Alam tara literally means didn't you see? But these wordings are repeated in the Quran, but they mean differently at different places. Don't you think about those things? Have you never thought about it? Have you never considered the case? Alam tara ila allazina. Have you never considered the case of those people, kharaju min diyarihim, who came out from their houses? Wahum uluf, and they were in thousands. Hazar al-maut, fearing death. Faqala lahum Allahu mutu. Allah said to them, die. Summa ahyahum. Then He revived them. Then He again brought them to life. Inna Allah lazu fadlin ala an-nas walakinna akthar an-nas la yashkurun. Verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is bountiful to mankind, but most of the people, they are not grateful, they are not thankful. Now actually from here, for two sections, we are going to have an incident, we should say, or a chunk of the history of the Bani Israel. Why? Actually now, when this Surah Al-Baqarah was being revealed, time was nearing for the battle of Badr. There was going to be, as I told you, this Surah was revealed just after Hijrah, but before the battle of Badr. During these nearly 16, 17 months, this Surah was revealed bit by bit. Now, we are nearing the end of the Surah. And in the same way, you must imagine that the time of the battle of Badr was coming nearer and nearer. In the history of the previous Muslim Ummah, there was a parallel battle which was fought between Talut and Jalut. Although this battle of Badr in Islam, it was during the lifetime of the Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The case with the former Muslim Ummah was different. During the lifetime of Hazrat Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, there was no victory, no state was established, deen was not established. But after his death, the Jews, the Bani Israel, they could conquer Palestine. But as I told you, they didn't establish one state, one government. They divided the whole country into 12 states, small states. And they kept, fighting with each other. For 300 years, this was the state of affairs. Then came an event that their enemies, they overpowered them because of their differences. They exploited their differences, and as a result, they were turned out. Many of them were turned out from their homes. And then they requested the Prophet of that time, Hazrat Samuel alayhi salatu wasalam, you appoint for us a king, a military leader, so that we join our forces together, the 12 tribes, under one banner, under one king, under one military leader, under one commander, and so that we can fight our enemies. Then there happened that battle of Talut and Jalut, and with that battle actually started their period of which we call the golden period of the Jewish history. That is the days of Talut alayhi salam, and then Dawood alayhi salam, and then Sulaiman alayhi salam. They go to make nearly 100 years. And that is the golden history, golden period of the total history of the Jews of Bani Israel. Now that battle of Talut and Jalut is going to be discussed. But before discussing that battle, this incident is given, and about this, there is no detail available in any Sahih Hadith. What does this ayah mean? Maybe it was some miracle, just as the miracles were there. About the Bani Israel, we have been reading the miracles throughout this surah. They were killed and then they were revived. And then, they were put to death and then again they were revived. These things have been happening. So maybe it happened sometimes in the history of Bani Israel, but we can't say what was that event, when it happened, what were the details. They are not available. Maybe that some of them, they fled from their homes in fear of death. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put them to death, then revived them to show them that life and death is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't get life and you can't preserve life from by fleeing from death. You must face death. You must face the enemy in the battlefield. Don't flee away. Don't run away because you can die. There also, while you are running away from battlefield, you can die. So that might be the case. But one of the Mufassirin, maybe the others also, the modern Mufassirin, has given a rational explanation of this event also. And he says, and he is Maulana Maududi, Rahimahullah, he says that this incident is referring to that event of their history when, after Exodus, Bani Israel were required to fight against the Canaanites and conquer Palestine. And Moses alayhi salatu wasalam was himself leading them till that time. But the whole of the nation refused to go to war against the Canaanites. That event also will come in detail in Surah Al-Ma'idah. So to that actually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in allegorical terms, he is referring to this matter in these words, because then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them a punishment. إنهم يتيهون في الأرض 40 سنة إنها محرمة عليهم 40 سنة يتيهون في الأرض. Had they not shown this cowardice, that they have refused to go to war against the enemies of Allah, they would have been given the control of this country at this very moment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have given them this country at this very moment. But because of their cowardice, their refusal to go to war, now this land has been made forbidden for them. إِنَّهَا مُحَرَّمَةٌ عَلَيْهِمْ 40 سَنَةً for 40 years. They will go on, keep on wandering in this desert for 40 years. During those 40 years, all the people, all the Bani Israel who had come from Egypt, who were born and raised up in slavery, they died. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam also died. Hazrat Harun alayhi salam also died. All that generation died. And now a new generation, which was born in this desert, in free atmosphere, this generation came up. And then they fought against the enemies, and then they conquered and entered Palestine. So that may be allegorically, these words are being used. Mutu, that is, the old generation died. Summa ahyahum, as if that nation was revived through a new generation that was born and brought up in the desert in free atmosphere. This is the explanation that Maulana Maududi has given. And I tend to agree with him, although because this is something, it doesn't fit wholly in the words of the ayah. But I think this is the nearest explanation that at least I have known up till this date. Wallahu a'lam. أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الَّذِينَ خَرَجُوا مِنْ دِيَارِهِمْ وَهُمْ أُلُوفٌ حَذَرَ الْمَوْتِ فَقَالَ لَهُمُ اللَّهُ مُوتُوا. Didn't you see, didn't you think about the event of those people who came out of their houses fearing death? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to them, die. So mahyahum, then he revived them, brought them again to life. Inna Allah lazu fadlin ala nasi walakinna aksar nasi la yashkurun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is definitely bountiful to the people, but most of the people are not grateful. وَقَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Because now Battle of Badr is nearing, again the injunction, قَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Now you go to war for the cause of Allah, in the way of Allah. Don't shirk going to war. وَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. And keep it in mind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala listens to everything and He knows everything. مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يُقْرِضُ اللَّهَ قَرْضًا حَسَنًا فَيُضَاعِفَهُ لَهُ أَضْعَافًا كَثِيرًا. Who is that who gives loan to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? A goodly loan. What is a goodly loan? What is qarz hasana? Qarz hasana, one gives selflessly. He doesn't want to get any benefit out of it. He only wants to fulfill the requirement and need of his brother. This is qarz hasana. I am giving you this money, you will return to me this money when you can, when it is easy for you, and you just fulfill your requirements and your needs for the time being. This is qarz hasan. In the same way, if you give Allah loan, and to give Allah loan, what does it mean? To spend for His deen, not for your own self. You are spending money for the deen of Allah, to make it supreme, to establish it, to propagate the message of Allah, to propagate the knowledge and wisdom of Quran. You are spending your money. So this is actually giving Allah qarz hasana. and for, providing for the Muslim armies to fight against the enemies of Allah, for the purchase of arms and the rations, etc., etc. All these things are required to go to war. So to fulfill these requirements, if you are spending, you are actually giving loan to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Man zal ladhi yuqridu Allah qardan hasanan. Who is that who has the courage, who is so much believing, who has the conviction in Allah and hereafter, to that extent that he gives away his money in loan to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahu yaqbidu wa yabsut. And it is Allah who decreases or increases the food or the wealth of a person. Don't fear that if you give your money away for the cause of Allah, your wealth will be decreased. No. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases in your wealth due to this expenditure that you have incurred in the way of Allah. Wallahu yaqbidu wa yabsut. It is His authority. He does it. It is His exclusive job. He does it. Either He increases or decreases. وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. And you will be returned to Him finally. Alam tara ilal malai min bani Israel. Now the narration is of that battle between Jalut and Talut. Again note please that it happened about 300 years after Moses alayhi salatu wasalam. If not after his death, at least 300 years after Exodus. After they came out from Egypt and they came to Sinai Peninsula. 300 years after that, this incident happened. Alam tara ilal malai min bani Israel. And that was the condition, as I told you, when these small states of the Israelites, of these tribes of Israel, they were, endangered. Some of them were captured by their enemies. Many of them were turned out from their houses and their lands. And they were in a very bad condition, very bad shape. After all, they said to the Nabi, to the Prophet of the time, that now you please nominate for us one military leader, one king, so that we join our forces under one banner, and then, with strength we can fight our enemies. Alam tara ilal malai min bani Israel min ba'de Musa. Did you never think about the chiefs of the tribes of Bani Israel? Malai min bani Israel min ba'de Musa, after Moses. Is qalu li nabiyyin lahum. When they said to the prophet, their prophet, and he was Samuel alayhi salatu wasalam. Samuel, you can find the book of Samuel in the Old Testament. Now you nominate for us a king. And by that king, what is meant is the military leader, a commander. Nuqatil fi sabilillah, so that we can go to war for the cause of Allah. قال هل عسيتم إن كتب عليكم القتال ولا تقاتلوا. The Nabi said, the Prophet said, Samuel alayhi salatu wasalam said, is there any possibility that if the going to war is fighting is prescribed and made obligatory, then you refuse to fight? Is it also possible? You are very eager to go to fight, but when your fighting comes, it's a different affair. Just as you refused to Moses alayhi salatu wasalam, your own, forefathers, they refused to go to war. Is there any possibility that history may repeat? What was the answer? قَالُوا وَمَا لَنَا لَا نُقَاتِلَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. They said, what to us? What's the reason that we will not go to fight for the cause of Allah? وَقَدْ أُخْرِجْنَا مِنْ دِيَارِنَا وَأَبْنَائِنَا. And we have been turned away from our houses and our sons. Maybe some of the sons of these people, they were taken captive and slaves. قَدْ أُخْرِجْنَا مِنْ دِيَارِنَا وَأَبْنَائِنَا فَلَمَّا كُتِبَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْقِتَالِ. When fighting was prescribed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Prophet, تَوَلَّوْا إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِّنْهُمْ. Most of them turned their backs, except only a few. وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ بِالظَّالِمِينَ. And Allah very well knows these evildoers. وَقَالَ لَهُمْ نَبِيُّهُمْ. And their Nabi, their Prophet, Hazrat Samuel alayhi salam said to them, إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ بَعَثَ لَكُمْ طَالُوتَ مَلِكًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has raised for you and decided for you Talut. The name in Bible is Saul. Saul, Talut. And Talut, Quran gives this name because he was very tall. Tall in Arabic. Tool in Arabic, legged. Tool is legged. He was a very tall person. Talut, a very tall person. So maybe his real name was Saul, but this adjective, a quality name, a sifati naam, that has been given by Quran, and that is Talut. قَدْ بَعَثَ لَكُمْ طَالُوتَ مَلِكًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has nominated for you Talut as king. قَالُوا أَنَّا يَكُونُ لَهُ مُلْكٌ عَلَيْنَا. They said, where from can he has the kingdom over us? How can he become king over us? وَنَحْنُ أَحَقُّ بِالْمُلْكِ مِنْهُ. We are more rightful. We have more right to be king. وَلَمْ يُؤْتَ سَعَةً مِنَ الْمَالِ. He has not been given, any wealth. He has not been given abundance in wealth. قَالَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ اسْتَفَاهُ عَلَيْكُمْ. The Nabi, the Prophet, Hazrat Samuel alayhi salam said, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has chosen him from you, out of you. It is his choice. وَزَادَهُ بَسْطَةً فِي الْعِلْمِ وَالْجِسْمِ. And he has given him abundance in knowledge as well as body. Physical power is abundant with him in his body. He was a very strong person bodily. And number two, ilm and understanding. These two things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him in abundance. If he has not been given abundant wealth, he has been given the abundant physical qualities and knowledge. وَاللَّهُ يُؤْتِي مُلْكَهُ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. And Allah gives his kingdom to whomsoever he pleases. وَاللَّهُ وَاسِعٌ عَلِيمٌ. And Allah is all embracing, all knowing. وَقَالَ لَهُمْ نَبِيُّهُمْ إِنَّ آيَةَ مُلْكِهِ أَنْ يَأْتِيَكُمُ التَّابُوتُ. And said to them their prophet, that is Hazrat Samuel alayhi salam, also said to them that the sign in the ayat mulkihi, the sign of his kingship is an yatiyakum tabut, that the wooden box, the ark, that is very famous these days. It's come in news. They say that ark, that sacred ark is embedded in the foundations of Masjid Aqsa, that is present up till now. It's a wooden box in which those stones, tablets of stone on which Torah is written, which was given to Moses alayhi salatu wasalam on the Mount of Tur. They are there in that box. Then the staff of Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, the asa, that is present there. Some other more, sacred things in the history of Bani Israel, they are in that. That is Tabut al-Sakina, that is called. So that was the most sacred thing, as sacred to them as is Kaaba for us. That Tabut al-Sakina was so sacred for Bani Israel. They always kept it with them, that box. And wherever they went, there was, a chariot was reserved for that box, for that ark. And that ark had been taken away by their enemies. Now they were very much disappointed because the most sacred thing of theirs was taken away from them. And Samuel alayhi salam said that the sign of the kingship of Talut will be that ark will come to you again in a miraculous way. وَقَالَ لَهُمْ نَبِيُّهُمْ إِنَّ آيَةَ مُلْكِهِ أَنْ يَأْتِيَكُمُ التَّابُوتُ فِيهِ سَكِينَةٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ. In that tabut, in that box, in that ark is peace and tranquility for you from your Lord. وَبَقِيَّةٌ مِّمَّا تَرَكَ آلُ مُوسَى وَآلُ هَارُونَ. And in that box are the remnants of what was left by the family of Moses and the family of Harun alayhi salatu wassalam. تَحْمِلُهُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ. That has been carried now by the angels. Inna fi zalika la'ayatan lakum in kuntum mu'minin. And in this is a sign for you if you really believe. And it so happened, as the Prophet has said, that one day they found that a chariot is coming, some bullocks there's no driver, and on that chariot there was that ark was placed, and that came to them. They now believed, and they now thought that actually now Talut is our king and he has been nominated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the sign that was told to us by our Prophet, that has been fulfilled. Now in the next section, inshallah, we shall have the detail of that war which happened which was held between Jalut, whose name is Goliath, generally the Goliath or Goliath, and Talut, that is Saul alayhi salatu wasalam. In between them the war was fought, and from that war or battle started the golden history of the former Muslim Ummah, that is Bani Israel. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Quran al-Azim wa nafani wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim.